going to be diving right into two major daily newspapers in this country, that is Daily Nation and The Standard. With me right here is, of course, the Daily Nation. Yeah. Are we good? All right. And of course, we want to give a very good, or rather great shout out to those who are right now streaming live, and also those who have chosen to follow, subscribe, and also be part and parcel of this great journey, the journey to transform Wazin Gishu County through all the available platforms, considering that we are here to make sure that we are bettering our lives in a way or two. So just like we've just said, you are highly welcome to the newspaper review coming to you every other day from the Elgin View College, the Solo Street, and inside the heart of Eldoret town in Northern Gishu County. This is the newspaper review. Welcome, my name is Chishir Gideon, together with my co-host, or rather my guest, is sitting in for Jerome. May he please introduce himself?
Mr. Kedi Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
It has been a blip.
Of course.
Missed the show really much.
Right.
Thank you for welcoming me back.
You're welcome back.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So we're going to be going through the newspapers, and with me right here is the Daily Nation. I believe also Mr. Kedi has a paper.
Standard.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to be going through the two daily, or rather the two top newspapers, and without any further ado, I'd like to welcome you officially to this. If you got your paper, let's go through this together. Let's do the review together and benefit from whatever the content that's going to be changing our view of observing, or rather taking the angle of the political whatever, or rather whatever the aspect featured. On the first page of the Daily Nation, I can see opposition leader Raila Odinga dressed very nicely, rather neatly, in the new uniform. I believe this is the attire for the Jeshi la Baba, or rather the Azimio la Umoja Brigade. Written over there is campaign of defiance, and the opposition chief announces massive procession set for Nairobi on March 20th. So you remember the 14 days ultimatum, or rather the 14-day ultimatum just ended the other day, and now the Azimio Brigade is really getting to organize themselves for this awaited day, because they gave a number of proposals, and the government, or rather William Ruto's government, might have failed to address their issues. So they are out there and they are ready for the battle. I don't know what is featured on the first
page. On the Standard,
yes,
it is the same issue whereby they are talking about Raila set for protest. But I think what they have had in addition is whereby they are saying that Kindiki says try.
Yes.
Because we know that Kindiki is the
Exactly.
the CS of Interior, who replaced Matiang'i. So when you look at maybe the attire, I think that's where we're supposed to focus.
Exactly.
It's an area of interest,
yes,
in terms of opposition.
Yeah.
And when we zoom closer, I can see that it's written Baba.
Sure.
In terms, because I think he's the leader.
He is, of course, the leader
of the brigade in
of
terms
the
of
entire
opposition.
brigade. Yeah.
And I would like to borrow from what Julius Malema does in South Africa.
Yes.
When they have parliament procession, he wears, or rather the brigade wears orange,
yes,
in terms of opposition.
Yeah.
So I think the notion that Baba is using is borrowed from the South African perspective in terms of politics,
yes,
whereby they're trying to showcase their prowess in terms of maybe the government, and maybe they have had some grievances whereby they're saying that one, as an opposition,
yes,
what we are fighting for is the cost of living.
Sure.
Second, we are fighting for nepotism in
yes,
the government, whereby we are having maybe civil servants who have given jobs in terms of major two communities,
yes,
and other prerogatives whereby I think Raila Odinga has put across.
Sure.
But Kindiki says that try, and maybe he's going to be met with a full force of the law.
The law.
But now the question is, Mr. Gideon,
Yes, please.
as a country,
Yes.
are we ready for this?
That's another.
Is this something that is going to maybe maim and showcase the direction that we're going to take? But I believe the other day when we were having a discussion,
Yes.
it was put clear that in the Constitution,
Yes.
Section 34A, it is
Yes.
written that any citizen in Kenya has a right to have a peaceful demonstration.
Very true.
So we're waiting to see, is it going to be a peaceful demonstration? Is it going to be a demonstration whereby we're going to see violence? We're just going to sit back at the face and also see as Kenyans.
Yes.
Because when I think the media guys, you guys are doing your procession,
Exactly.
whereby you're going to collect polls. I don't know what the Kenyan citizens are saying. Is life too hard for them? Are they maybe going with what Baba is doing? And remember also the president has his own camp
Sure.
in terms of where he has his own favorites
Exactly.
and also his people. So we have to look at all these dynamics in terms of dealing maybe with the political matter that is being put across.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, just to echo what Interior sees, that is Professor Kindiki
Kindiki, yeah.
offering a warning. I believe his warning is based on the nature of the protest, because we are yet sure that it's going to be violent. What we know is that they are organizing for a protest, or of course agitating for a number of things they illicit, including the high cost of living and all that. So we believe that it's going to be peaceful, because Raila is a decorated, Raila is a decorated man. However,
That's what Kenyans always believe.
Exactly.
And then at the end of the day,
Yes.
it becomes shambles in terms of
That's
maybe whatever they're doing.
Exactly.
But one thing I just like to put across, Mr. Gideon,
yes, please.
is that when we're talking about Raila Odinga, I would like to say that maybe what he's doing, in respect, he should have the Kenyan plight at mind.
Sure.
Let it not be politically instigated,
you're
whereby
right.
maybe he wants a handshake.
Sure,
Because
sure.
the people who are suffering are the Kenyans,
the citizens.
local mwananchi
Yeah, very
that
true.
you're talking about. But I can see Baba is very well dressed. I don't.
He looks nice, but
Very nice.
Of course.
It is like a military attire.
Yeah, he looks
and even
nice.
the shoes.
yes.
Eugene Wamalo is also there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I only see Kalonzo failed to get the uniform. I don't know why. Maybe.
Yeah, and Martha Karua.
And Mother Karua.
I think we should have interviews with
Yeah,
them.
we should find out why.
Why they are not
Was it too
dressed?
expensive for them?
Why they are not dressed in the political
They are
attires? Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any other heading over there?
Yeah, okay, the standard rather, I think what they're also trying to focus on
Yes.
is they're saying that how two words cost KRA shillings 900 million case
Yeah.
against Coca-Cola company. So I think there's a wrangle between KRA, which is the Kenya
Revenue
Revenue
Authority. Yes.
against the Coca-Cola company in terms of maybe them not paying their funds. But they're
Yes.
saying that words have meaning, and the Kenya Revenue Authority, which is KRA,
Yes.
loss of shillings 900 million tax case against global beverages manufacturer Coca-Cola has proved that words can also be expensive.
Yes.
So this rendered a case filed by KRA nil and void, and the authority was demanding shillings 900 million from Coca-Cola subsidiary,
Yes.
Coca-Cola Central, to be specific,
All right.
East and West African Limited, Coca-Cola Africa,
Yes.
for advertising services.
Yeah.
So they're saying that the case is a major blow to the taxman and has an implication on how multinational advertise their products
Exactly.
in Kenya.
Kenya.
So I think it is an advertisement wrangle.
Yeah.
And I think media people, there is a way that I've heard the saying that mostly maybe the media stations in Kenya earn a lot
Yes.
because of maybe the advertisements
advertisement,
that
of
are
course.
put in different
Media
in
houses.
different platforms and
Yeah.
different media houses.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. All right. Maybe a little bit also away from politics, I can see Google. We all know Google.
Yeah.
So
Google is
Google
a
cited,
multinational company, yeah.
multinational company, just like the
Coca-Cola
Coca-Cola.
company.
So Google cited for violating user privacy in class action lawsuit. Now this is a claim that this Google company uses the data of the particular individuals and happens to share the data with third party without the knowledge of the previous of the previous particular individual. Now, this is a question to do with privacy. It happens that now Google fails in keeping the secrecy and independence, or rather the privacy of their, let's say, customers, rather, and this is bringing an issue. So they've been taken to court, and they have a question to answer. Still on issues to do with business, the China Square is also right at the question. Like, citizens are asking, what is the problem with the China Square? Because now, Mr. Kelly, I would like to know your thoughts over this one, because we all know that in Kenya, we happen to be those people who really love cheap things. Yeah, it's common in Kenya. That
I think it's because we are a third world country.
Maybe.
So mostly we are not going for expensive things.
Maybe, exactly.
Yeah, because of the life situation.
Sure, but how about this? How about these business owners? Because they are complaining that now our customers have all been taken by the China Square Mall, and we now have stocks just packed on our stores. We're not selling anything. So who's to blame here? Should we blame the customers going for the cheap things? Should we blame these other Kenyan business people who maybe their prices are not merging with the prices at the China Square Mall? Who should really be blamed here? And also remember, Trade CS, that is Moses Kuria, had to intervene over this issue. And after China Square being closed for a while, it was reopened, but of course with some regulations. But still, citizens are still flocking the China Square and abandoning the Kenyan business person's stores. What is happening here?
I think when we try and look at maybe the matter of the China Square in depth, the problem then I will lament and say that it's the government, because China Square is a multinational organization.
Exactly.
And it is not run by goons.
Sure.
These are people who have practiced this trade in other countries.
Yes.
But you see, the first question we're asking ourselves is, then who allowed China Square to operate in Kenya?
Yes.
They must have a license.
Of course
they must go to the government to be given some documents so that they can operate in the country.
Yes.
So when the CS says that China Square is an illegal business, then who gave the green light for them to operate? That's the first question. The second question, we're talking about overseas investors.
Exactly.
We have local traders who are bringing goods in.
Yes.
But remember also, Kenya is trying to be amongst the topmost in terms of the food chain, in terms of business.
Yes.
And there has to be some changes in terms of maybe allowing investors to come from abroad.
Sure.
And also remember, as Kenyans, we also have other businesses in other countries.
Of course we do have.
East African region. They always say that Kenya is one of the countries that has really invested in Uganda and Tanzania.
Of course.
So when we say that other investors who come from abroad cannot invest in the country, then there is a question mark. Because when you go to the US, I think one of the leading companies that is selling products in the US is Walmart.
Exactly.
Walmart is not owned by people from the US. It is owned by the Chinese.
Yes.
So when Kenyans start protesting and saying that maybe China Square is an illegal business, I think it is where we are going wrong, because it's a free trade and fair in the world. And if China Square is bringing products which are cheaper for the Kenyans, it is also good. Because nowadays I think the life is too hard.
Exactly.
But you see, I'm not shunning away traders who are bringing goods. It's just competition, my friend. So how do you go back to your niche, reorganize yourself, and compete with China Square? That's the bigger thing. But I think, Mr. Gideon, the blame is on the government.
Definitely.
They're the ones who brought this mess. At the first of it all, they shouldn't have given China Square license to operate in the country. Because Kenyans, as we know, we love illegal things. We love businesses which bend. So I think at the end of the day is the government to blame. And Mr. Gideon, I think you talked about Google. Whereby there is a lobby group that sued Google because of a breach of privacy. But when we look at this matter, I think it's also Facebook had the same situation.
Of course.
Because you're talking about international laws. And when we look at Google as a company, this is a company which has maybe we are looking at a company which has details.
Exactly.
Because data
yes.
which pertains its
yes,
users.
of course.
And there is international laws and also country laws
sure.
that are able to maybe guard users because of certain private and copyright issues that
exactly.
we're talking about. So I think then if Google are using the information in a queer way,
yes.
then they stand to answer the question which I put across.
Very true.
Because remember, these are privacy of people who are using your product knowing that maybe there is a law that protects them.
Yes.
So you see, as an organization, then you're supposed to come up and be fruitful and be upfront in terms of the activities that you're doing.
Yes.
So I think the lobby group is okay if
yes,
they're using the information in a disadvantageous.
That is if in any way the Google are actually breaching their what do we say about that? That's their privacy.
Privacy.
Then they are good.
Yeah,
they're good to move.
I think that one is
exactly.
It's very pertinent for them to move to the court sessions.
On the other page right here, I see President Ruto say she was a woman of great courage, while Mr. Odinga noted that she had many firsts. Now these are tributes going to the first elected female member of parliament, that is Grace Onyango. Yeah, Grace Onyango happens to have just rested just a little while ago. I think it happened, was it on the Women's Day?
Yeah, on the Women's Day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On the 8th of March 2023. When she rested. She's actually an old woman.
Yeah, and when we talk about Grace Onyango,
yes,
I think she became the first MP in Kisumu
elected.
And also elected.
Yes,
and I think she has also done a lot of things. When you look at her political career,
yes,
she was the first woman to install lights in Kisumu,
yes,
and also build the Kakamega Bungoma Highway in terms of renovation.
Exactly.
So I think these are some women that we should pay a lot of accolades in terms of what they have done.
Yes.
I think when you talk about Grace Onyango, I see Professor Wangari Maathai in her.
Exactly.
In terms of maybe
what
some of the things that she has done.
I can see a section of rural leaders calls a state burial for the that is trailblazing Grace Onyango. It's true. I also recommend a state burial for her.
Yeah,
because what she did is really
commendable.
Yeah, exactly, really commendable.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, I see also Raila Odinga being still mentioned and echoed in this particular newspaper as the battle now comes in a new standard. That is Raila mass action calls set stage for face off with Ruto. I think Honorable William Ruto has a battle to really fight. It is not going to be easy. And I don't see it getting easy.
And I think also when we are looking at maybe the opposition leader calling for mass action, then as maybe citizen, we're supposed to look at it in terms of what is our beneficiary.
That's it.
And maybe the state right in terms of what it's doing. And maybe if people are suffering, if maybe the president hasn't met whatever he promised, then I think in terms of the constitution, Raila has the right, but again has the right to do what and in what emphasis, because we don't want him to disrupt the country in terms of how it is run. Because if it is peaceful, let it be peaceful. If they're going to meet with stakeholders in terms of maybe residents who are suffering, then let them meet with specific stakeholders. And I think it will be correctly right for them to do so, because as a country, if we are looking at what the other day Ipsos did polls, whereby they're asking residents or maybe citizens, here nowadays they're called netizens, I don't know if it's the right word, in terms of how the country is run, then a lot of 50% of them are not agreeable with the direction that the country is taking. Just yesterday, I was hearing maybe passengers. I use a matatu,
of course,
and maybe guys who are sitting behind me are saying that nowadays even getting 200 shillings has become really difficult. You can sit the whole day and you're not getting anything in terms of money. So I think as a country, then there's some things that you're supposed to focus on. and try and change. And if Raila is going to fight for the common mwananchi peacefully,
Yes.
then we advocate for it.
You advocate.
Remember, we don't want to go back where
Sure.
we came from.
Yes, yes.
If it is peaceful,
That's all
the
we
constitution allows.
Exactly.
Who are we to reject?
Of course.
Kabisa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah, in the Standard, they're focusing on, they're saying that maize millers shut down as Shillings 3 billion subsidies refunds delay.
Wow.
And I think, I don't know why Kenya, we are one of the manufacturers who grow a lot of maize,
Sure,
Mr.
sure.
Gideon. And I don't know where the problems emanates from, whereby I think as Kenyans, we're really suffering
Of
in
course.
terms of maybe prices shooting of local commodities, which citizens are using daily.
Exactly, yeah.
And I think this is where we need to sit down, the stakeholders,
Of course.
the government, and also we have the investors who are coming from abroad. So that I think then maize shouldn't be a matter, because this is something that is
Surely.
used by Kenyans
Surely.
each and every
It
day.
it shouldn't be. That
Yeah,
is.
but again, is subsidies right for the citizens?
That's another question.
When we are saying that the government is using subsidies to try and maybe bar the citizens from facing hunger, is it the right decision, or is it the right way
I think-
for the government to
On
approach?
my opinion, Mr. Kedi, well, subsidies are there to actually cushion the citizens from maybe tough situations, considering the price of unga right now. But the question goes back to then. Won't it be even more wiser to subsidize maybe the production instead of the consumption? You know, what we subsidize here is just ready unga. We just buy it, we consume it, it's done.
Yeah.
So the question would be, why wouldn't we consider maybe subsidizing production? That we see that citizens out there, because we already have an arable land, much as rain is actually running.
arable land, there I can agree
Yeah,
with
we
you,
have a lot of arable land,
which is correct.
which is correct. Now we still have the rains. You see, we are favored. So what we should actually do is to at least subsidize the production sector. Make sure that at least each farmer who has a potential of cultivating be in position to access whatever he or she needs, if it's in terms of fertilizer, in terms of seeds, in terms of mechanization, in terms of fuel. Consider fuel is also a factor as far as agriculture is concerned.
Yeah.
Also maybe find a way to subsidize things to do with chemicals. You see all that. If we can actually subsidize production, particularly if we can even choose to subsidize maize production in particular, or just for a start, I think we can notice a difference, and also avoid these cartels kind of thing when it comes to selling the final product. Because two things here are eating us from inside. Number one, we are wasting a lot of funds subsidizing the consumption, and number two, when it comes to now we've tried our best and we have produced, but we have our maize out there. We have cartels who at the same time would want to sell their own products. Maybe they imported it, or maybe in such a way they are in a position to produce a lot of it to the point that they really want to sell theirs, and that of a particular citizen won't be in a position to have a good price. You know, this price issue is also affecting the entire agricultural sector,
Which
not
is
just
very
maize,
correct. Which I think, in terms of what you've said,
Exactly.
is very correct.
Yeah.
And I think I also support the president
Yes.
in terms of, because the president was very clear, whereby he was saying that when you're talking about subsidies,
Yes.
then why don't we look at the local farmer?
That's true.
In terms of fertilizer.
That is true.
Why don't we bring down the price of fertilizer?
Yes.
So that the local farmer can be able to produce a lot of products.
Exactly.
And then from that vis-a-vis in terms of what you're talking about,
Yes.
then the products are able to reduce in terms of the price.
Is it the price?
But now the problem, Mr. Gideon, as you've said, is the cartels.
Exactly. That's what
Because
the
when you're talking
problem
about
is.
maize, we hear that maize comes from other countries.
Yes, like
stored in the
Mexico, for
silos.
example.
Mexico, all the way from Mexico.
You can even imagine that.
And then it is stored in the silos.
Yes.
And then later sold.
Yes.
When prices have hiked. So I think
Another
then we
very
have a
stupid,
problem.
another very stupid mistake, and I'm very right to say stupid mistake. It doesn't make sense at all that we have now this imported maize, or rather just maize from elsewhere, when we have citizens, or rather common mwananchi's maize being stored in a silo somewhere, or even maybe imported, and they are stored. I remember a case where millions of bags got spoiled in the silos. You remember that
It
story?
was banned, yeah. And it really, I was thinking, and you see that day, I was looking at my nini of unga jar, and it had gone down. So I was thinking if they could have given me sacks of maize, I could have used that. In terms of how it was.
Yeah,
so it's really hurtful.
It's really shameful, by the way.
And when you look at, we have semi-arid areas in Kenya like Turkana, people are malnourished.
Yes, and millions of dollars are getting,
sometimes it's really detestable.
I usually
in terms of what happens in the country.
I usually agree with Jaguar. I usually agree with what Jaguar sings in the song, that maskini yatabaki kwa maskini, matajiri watatajirika zaidi.
Which is very correct.
Yeah,
so I think we should have a change of attitude.
Exactly.
In terms of how we run things in the country.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Maybe to just take a little glimmer also on the Daily Nation, I can see cabinet secretaries to answer questions every Wednesday. This is a proposal by the newly, maybe it's no longer newly, it's actually 6 months old, the government, ministers to appear before the House after change of rules. Now, change of standing orders easily sail through as the new MPs skip session. Now, this is where the question comes. The members of parliament actually were, in other words, maybe proposing that the cabinet secretaries to appear in the house every Wednesday to at least answer some questions. Now, I think this will help in bringing some sanity and transparency, or maybe accountability in our sectors. Yeah, in our sectors. But the question is, how do we achieve this with as a new members of parliament at least skipping session?
And I think sometimes as leaders then we are not fighting for our parties, but we should also think about who voted us in.
That is very
despite
true.
Of the
that is very true.
Despite of the political affiliations that we hold.
Yes.
Because when you talk about them saying that we should have CS coming to parliament
each Wednesday,
yes. I think it is correct.
It's very
because yesterday Mushogu was really grilled in terms of the education sector in Kenya, and I was very pleased for them.
That's
and
the
I should think we should try and adopt some functions like how the US do it in terms of the court session, whereby in terms of parliament then we should bring ordinary mwananchi, 2 or 3 to just ask questions, because you see sometimes when you're talking about members of parliament, they don't know what the local mwananchi is going through.
They really don't.
So when they bring these CS in parliament, they should also have citizens who come in,
a couple of citizens,
maybe ask questions to the CS in terms of what they are doing in the sector they are in. But I think whatever maybe the ministers are trying to maybe advocate for, I think it is very correct. Because these people need to be grilled specifically in the specific
they need to
questions.
be held responsible. And that responsibility has been bestowed on the National Assembly. So that they should be answerable in terms of matters maybe that are ongoing in the country, which I think is very correct. It is very correct
in terms of what maybe they're trying to do.
Maybe just to still talk about the Azimio thing, like you've just said, it is high time to remember who really voted you in and why they voted. Not just who voted, but why they voted. They wanted you to represent them in the House of Lawmaking, so that you make laws in their favor, not just a party issue. Party, we usually say party is just but a ship that takes you through some process, that is the election process.
From where your destination.
Exactly.
It reaches you. So the standard, they're saying that counties to adopt similar school uniforms in new radical proposals. They're saying that counties may soon have distinct colors for school uniforms for all learners within their regions in radical new proposals that will regulate the outfits in learning institutions. And parents will decide where to go and buy uniforms that are now being proposed to be of the same quality across the country.
Oh my.
So I don't know, the question is then, yes,
of course,
we have lack of teachers to teach the junior secondary.
That's number one.
The system in Kenya in terms of education, we have hiking numbers of school fees, whereby when we look at the local mwananchi, other families are not going to be able to achieve, or to be able to provide school fees for their kids.
Very true.
So is uniform something that should be really discussed
is a
in terms of county government.
That's a real question.
Is there someone who wants to supply those uniforms?
And
is it a business entity? You see, these are some of the questions that we should ask in terms of the education sector.
Your questions are very right, Modi.
Deal first with
they
the low turnout in school, the buildings, because we have schools whereby children don't have buildings to cover their tops. In terms of maybe lessons that are ongoing.
And even if they happen to have some, the buildings are of very low quality.
Low quality. Yes. So is school is maybe the school uniform something that we should really focus on? I don't know who came with the idea.
Okay, the idea.
I think the idea is okay because when we're talking about school uniform, we're supposed. And is it going also to focus on the private sector?
That's the question.
Because maybe school uniforms, when we're talking about maybe public institutions, they're supposed to make students feel part and parcel of the maybe institution, however or whichever background they're coming from.
Exactly, that's true.
Maybe if you're coming from the high class, low class, or middle class, all of you are supposed to be.
That's actually the essence of uniform. For uniformity.
Yeah, for uniformity. So, but I think for me as a person, there are some specific things that we should focus on.
Yes, I agree with you.
Employment of teachers, lack of funds in institutions.
Exactly.
We should revolutionize the school system in terms of how it is. Education. And then uniforms is not a bad thing. We should look at it later.
It's a good thing, but the only thing that I would say about that is that I think we usually say first things first. And they are failing here because, well, uniform, as we've just said, is okay. It's good for students to have good and decent and similar uniform. That's not a problem. But let us adjust on our priorities. This is not a priority. We really have weighty issues to address. Otherwise, well, it's good. But we have to consider, if we really have to make this go through, then let's fix the real messes first.
Kabisa. Sure. I think that one is very correct.
Yeah. This is also talking about what we've just talked about when Machug was grilled over illegal city schools. That senators expressed concerns over a growing number of institutions suspected to be serving illegal immigrants. And this happens where classes are conducted in residential areas. And unfortunately, Ezekiel Machog was not in a position to actually tackle the questions properly. And,
I also watched the interview, and some of these questions I think try and put maybe these CS on their toes in terms of what they do, because it comes from different individuals who are non-partisan in terms of how they run their activities, which I think is very correct.
It is good, and we advocate for more of this, especially considering the health sector. Health CS should also be brought on board to answer the question whether the county government is really competent to handle health issues or whether should be reverted back to the national government.
Yes, which is correct. So I think on the standard, they're focusing on Yatani. Nyango carry blame for Shillings 55 billion spending. So they're saying that Parliament has been told former Treasury CS Ukui Yatani and Controller of Budget Margaret Nyakango should bear the greatest responsibility for the Shillings 5.5 billion spent by the former regime without parliamentary approval.
That is.
So we're talking about the government which has just exited. Kosawa. And we have the current government. And they are saying that the Treasury used money which was not approved by the Parliament.
That is,
So I think in terms of misuse of public funds, if maybe they misused it, I think they should be answerable.
Of course,
in terms of, because 55 billion is a lot of money. In terms of maybe whatever is going on. But I think again as an country we should not focus on, I think it is ailing us right now, but we should try as much to be able to reshuffle the government in terms of maybe what is happening, because we might be talking about the previous government in terms of the ails that they did, but the current government is also doing the same thing. So what are we doing to change?
We really have to do
I think there is a Kiswahili saying that says usi don't the speck in your brother's eye.
All right. Yeah, that's what
You
it
should-
says.
It is an English
It's
saying,
I
sorry,
think it's an English word.
Uh-huh. Whereby they say that don't check the speck in your brother's eye when you have
When you
the-
have a logo on yours. That's very
So
true.
sometimes I think it is correct in terms of what
Yeah.
they are doing, but they should also put the house in order at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was watching in Australia in terms of maybe how the government is being run.
Yes.
And I realized that Europeans sometimes have beaten us in the game because whatever they do for their people
Yes.
is really wonderful. Do you know in Australia we
Yes.
have people who are not working. Each and every week they're given money by the government so that they should not go and steal.
Oh my.
Someone who cuts grass,
Oh my goodness.
compensated very well. But in Kenya,
That's really satisfying. So,
doesn't-
just to restrict you from stealing, we give you something to keep you going.
keep you going.
Oh my
because we know that you're going through a hard time.
Oh my goodness, they are really concerned. They are beating us, by the way. You're right. They are beating us by far. Yeah, right about here. I can see also a final epitaph. That's final epitaph about the Tuskys. That is the. We all know about this Tuskys issue, that only dust memories linger on in Tuskys' last outlet as retails limps to its dead bed. Now, I remember when Tuskys was one of the most profound businesses, or rather stores in this country. In fact, it reached a point where it was a now international kind of business. You would find Tuskys within East Africa, and it happens that right now it's almost dying. Like, what exactly is happening over here?
And I think
what
Mr.
is the major
Gideon,
problem with
Mr.
Tuskys?
Gideon, when you're talking about supermarkets, and I'm not saying that I'm trying to maybe indulge in terms of whatever is being done.
Yes.
I think Uchumi,
Yeah.
Tuskys,
Disappeared.
we've had other supermarkets, and
Including
I think
Ukwala, we-
Ukwala,
Ukwala,
yeah, we see
yeah.
Ukwala,
Along there.
and you see some of these family businesses in terms of mismanagement of funds. And recently we've had, I think,
also did.
Nakumat, and you see, we're told that Tuskys started in Naivasha. Do you know? As a shop, the owner
Just a
started,
mere shop.
as a mere shop, and from there he generated revenue until it became a big supermarket in Naivasha,
course.
and then he started opening in
Branches
other
in various towns.
in various towns.
Yeah.
So I think where the problem comes in is that you find that when then we are trying to expand these businesses, for example, Tuskys,
Yes.
then along the way there is mismanagement of funds.
Of course.
Because when we are looking at having a solitary foundation whereby you're saying we're just managing Tuskys from Naivasha, we're not going to open Tuskys in other areas, as the sole proprietor or as the founder, you are able to look at your goods and services.
Sure.
But you see, as the business grows, then you have to open in other counties,
Definitely.
and you will not be able to be there.
In person.
You employ your family members,
family
your
members.
sons, but now there is where the mishap comes in.
Yeah.
You find that we have other family members who are able to misappropriate the funds.
That's true.
And you see, a business is just a business, irrespective of billions or millions.
Sure.
When you start
It's
eating,
just a business.
it starts going down.
Once you open your throat, you'll
That's
swallow
how
all of it.
That's how it goes down. But I think
Yes.
one of the forefront runners who when we're talking about Eldoret,
Yes.
we're talking about Paul's Bakery.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do their business.
And I was like to tell you that, remember, this is also where the whites are beating us. I don't know what's wrong with being an African.
We're proud to be Africans and Kenyans,
because,
but I think sometimes we should look inside ourselves in terms of what we are doing.
What is it? Because we have other family businesses. Yeah, family businesses that are out, including Kiwi. Do you know Kiwi is a family business?
I know that. Oh my!
But it's an international business, really farm and running all that. Now we have this KFC, this chicken thing. It's also a family issue. I mean, or rather, a family business. But it's thriving in whatever the country that it lands. It's going on very well.
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola is another example. You know. I also remember the Absa Bank. It used to be Barclays Bank. It was personal stuff. Barclays was just about a person.
Yeah.
So they let's just call it Absa, no longer Barclays. So there's nothing wrong with a family business. but there is a lot of things wrong with the African family business. So there's something to do with being an African. As far as business is concerned, as far as money,
it's something which is written in our DNA.
Yeah,
I don't know how we are going to surpass that.
Exactly. So
there's another story.
Pray for that.
Yeah,
yes.
we should pray.
Yes.
There's another story at the Standard whereby they're saying that NYS scammers to forfeit Shillings 7.8 million to state. I don't know what is wrong with the NIS. They're saying that 2 traders implicated in the Shillings 467 million heist at the National Youth Service have lost their fortune after the High Court ordered that they forfeit the proceedings to the government. So I think when, and I don't want to talk about who I think is now the governor.
Who is this?
Waiguru.
He's
now a governor. Kirinyaga County.
Yeah.
And I saw that there is some beautiful things he's doing, whereby he has said that we are going to have a maternity ward in terms of each and every county hospital.
Sure.
But I think when we look at the NYS, then NYS has been having scandals since time immemorial. Because we know that the previous regime is the one that started NYS to maybe tackle issues to do with the youths, because we have a lot of youths who are unemployed. But the NYS is able to take them in, train them, and then they are able to produce goods and services in different departments.
Exactly.
So, but I don't know how NYS becomes a money printing machine whereby we're talking about corruption.
Exactly.
And I think that's the question that we should ask ourselves as Kenyans and as leaders in terms of the remuneration of activities that are being done.
You know, the entire question about NYS, I'm not talking about Anwai Guru. You know, she was featured on the Women's International Day as the first ever woman to be the chair of the Council of Governors. You know, she's the chair.
Which I think is a plus.
It's a plus for her. It's a plus for her. But we believe people change. There's no problem.
No, people, Mr. Gideon, people, when it comes to money, people don't change. So they think money is the source of all evil.
It's true, actually.
Money becomes the source
of all evil. But I think the government should actually, use these NYs in a more engaging way. Because just finding them courses to study and all that, it shouldn't end there. There should be at least a sort for some employment, and also for those serving as constables. You know, NYS also has constables.
Yeah, constables.
Yeah, they should at least be given these security jobs to guard in the banks and all that. I agree with what Deputy President Gashagwa was said at a point, that we're going to be considering NYS to do some manning in these national banks, you see.
Which is very correct.
Which is very correct.
Yeah,
at least they get something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this will minimize a lot of money that's lying over there, and somebody will be tempted to grab it. Anyway. It's just what it is.
So I think something the Standard are also focusing on is they're saying that we should free ourselves from the colonial mindset and go back to rich African cultures. So they're saying that it is almost 59 years since we gained independence, and before then the rich African cultures gave us latitude within which to check one's excess and warn the people when they broke their confines.
Of course.
So today, the society is sadly being controlled by the same white man who colonized us.
Oh man.
So what then should we? And I think this is where the matter where we're talking about LGBTQ comes in.
It emerges from that particular.
Because when we look at African values, and I'm not trying to offend certain affiliations, we are saying that does then the African culture focus on the specific matter that we're talking about? And I think in terms of the African cultures, then should it be shunned away in terms of what we are talking about? And I think maybe the one who wrote this article, I think is very true. But again, when we look at the pure hindsight, there are some things that the African society or the African culture advocated for, which was not correct. Like female genital mutilation.
Yeah, the FGM.
Yeah. So I think some of the things that you're talking about, it is like technology.
Exactly.
It has its advantages and
disadvantages. Yeah, it needs some kind of balance. Because if we talk about also the white culture in our community, rather in Africa, it brought a lot of plus, of course, to us. Things to do with religion. We had no religion before. We were just existing. As a people. Exactly. But these people brought us religion. But alongside the goodies that they brought, they might have been one or two negatives. Yeah. Just like we were in a good kind of African tradition, but we happened to be having also some negative things that we were doing. So it's about just balancing. And the most important thing, also considering the FGM thing, I think a lot of campaigns should be really done, because that's terribly wrong. It's so shameful to even imagine that it's still happening
in other societies,
in other parts of Kenya. Yeah, it doesn't make sense at all.
I think that one is very dehumanizing.
Yeah, really.
in respect of other genders.
Of course.
Yeah,
of course. Well, there's also a story about a woman in Nairobi. She says, I can't believe DNA tests finding that the boy is not my son. Now, it happened is that a child disappeared 11 years ago in Nairobi from Kibra, and the boy disappeared, and no one knew where he went, or maybe they tried looking for him, but they never. Just to appear a few days ago, and once the mother saw that the mother is Ruth, she was very happy, and she was overjoyed when she saw the son back. 11 years old son is coming back. But after the DNA test, it was the opposite. The DNA revealed that there was no kind of relation between the woman and the appearing young man. So the woman is saying, I'm soliciting for funds to redo the DNA test. Consider.
But I heard that we had kits which were brought in, they were fake, for 500. There was a story which was going online whereby they had DNA kits which will not be costly, around 500, and then you can do the paternity test.
Family,
to know if maybe the kid.
Yeah, I heard about it also, but it just appeared and disappeared. Like maybe it wasn't.
But you see, the question Mr. Gideon will be asking ourselves is, then does a child need to be of your blood for you to offer him or her motherly or fatherly love?
Of course, normally.
Because I think when we borrow from maybe overseas in terms of what the whites do, there is something they call adoption.
Exactly.
And I think we have maybe students or maybe pupils who are adopted by their parents, but in terms of their working shift, they turned out to be maybe correct in terms of maybe what they were doing.
Yeah.
So I don't think that sometimes then the parent needs to be of blood or blood related to the kid for there to be motherly love in terms of maybe how it is shown.
This DNA thing is actually an implication of greed and selfishness. It's just selfishness. If it's not mine, I don't care.
And I think even in the Bible, that's where Samson used his wits in terms of maybe the mother was saying, we slay the child into two, and the other one said, no, even the other parent can also take the whole child, as long as he's still alive. I think the standard what they're focusing on internationally, they're saying that Nigerian elections, what next for heartbroken young voters? And I think in Africa, not only in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Africa as a whole, I think elections is not elections.
Definitely.
And voters don't make the decision. That has been the system in Africa. So when you're talking about democracy, then what is democracy to us?
Exactly.
Democracy is defined very well in layman's language, that we're supposed to practice our civil rights, whereby we're supposed to vote, and maybe the government is supposed to take that in charge in terms of what we've voted and the leader we voted. But in Africa, it is all wrong. And I don't know why. And we also saw how the election was being done in Nigeria. It was something
really questionable.
And Nigeria is one of the leading country in terms of GDP in Africa. So what is really happening?
Unfortunately, also leading in corruption.
In corruption.
Anyway,
very outspoken.
Well, being an African can also be interesting at times. It's made up of really delicate kind of balances. Now, anti-graft agency in court bid to reclaim grabbed KRL land. Now, this is an issue to do with former Kiambu Governor William Kabogo. Gitau, who is among the 22 defendants in the land grabbing case. This issue to do with land grabbing, it's been always normal in this particular country, not just Kenya, also in Africa. It's an habit that when people actually thrive to power, they use the power to actually they misuse the power. That's the right word. They misuse the power and make sure that by the time they leave there, they are living with a lot of things that they never had before. And this is wrong. This is wrong, because I remember when this PLO Lumumba would say, in Africa we are not electing champions. We are electing people regardless of their nature. We know very well that this is a thief. I remember a very good story he cited about one of the Ugandan chiefs who happened to have gone to the United States, and upon getting to the United States, he was just an African, and an African appeared to be having glue in hands. So the Ugandan chief in the United States stole something. He stole something, and he was deported back to Uganda. But getting to Uganda, the reaction from the citizens of Uganda was different. That he is back. The thieves, the thieves in Africa steals in shillings, but our thief steals in dollars. So they were celebrating that their own steals in dollars. So I think that's a problem, and I would always say that as Africans, rather Kenyans generally, we are the authors of our own misfortunes.
Which I think is very correct.
It's true.
In terms of what you're talking about.
It's actually true. So we have to really consider this land grabbing issue and all, because we elect people, they go do what they do, we still re-elect them.
And I think also when you're talking about anti-graft in terms of land grabbing,
yes,
then it comes from the personal mindset.
Yes.
Because Mr. Gideon, why would you like to own 300 or 3,000 acres of land? And you're just going to stay for maybe 50 years, 60 years,
50, at most 70.
And we have other people who don't have land.
Exactly.
You see, in overseas country, you'll find an MP,
yes,
who stays in just like a small portion of land, has a car,
yes,
the wife has a car, the kids are able to go to school very well.
Yeah.
But in Kenya is whereby you find an MP owns different tracts of land.
3,000 acres of land
in Eldoret,
Eldoret, Nairobi, Mombasa. And this boils back, Mwalimu, to the point of greed. As Africans, we're really greedy. Our counterparts with white skin over there, they seem to be really satisfied with the little
the little they have. And you see, they maximize in terms of maybe products that they're supposed to get from maybe the little that may.
We had people in, particularly this region, we had great people like the Total Man, I don't want to mention his name. We also had the chairman of the men's conference. All those people, they had chunks of land. Now they're gone.
And you find
the sons now the sons are desperate. They are selling off the pieces of land. In a couple of years, talking about 15, 20 years to come, they're going to be beggars in the city. Who knows? It's really difficult. And that has always been a trend in this continent. So a lot needs to be done. And we have to be actually moral enough and say no to this greed kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, any other article? I see these newspapers are actually almost...
I think today they've not focused on a lot of stories.
Exactly.
And I think in terms of politics and business, maybe they're just focusing on the International Women's Day.
Yes, they're echoing on the International Women's Day.
Yeah, and what maybe some of the women who have won awards, and maybe in Kenya, then some of the women that we should focus in terms of maybe the good that they are doing.
Sure.
And I think when you're talking about also the media, one of the women that we shouldn't fail to maybe recognize is maybe the head of KISS. I don't know if you know her name. The head of your media personnel.
The head of KISS.
Yeah, KISS. He now heads KISS in terms of services. Caroline Mutoko.
Oh, right, sure.
Caroline Mutoko.
I haven't known that lady. So Caroline
Iron Lady.
Yeah.
Iron Lady.
So she's currently the head of the KISS. All right. Oh, wow.
We really
actually
applaud
we
her
applaud
the
we applaud
activities.
And together with all the other ladies who are doing really great stuff.
Very great in terms of how the country
exactly.
We shouldn't fail to
we shouldn't fail to recognize that.
Yeah. Which I think is very correct.
Sure.
Yeah. I don't know what you have, because I think
I have some very nice image here. With the camera would see this, but anyway, you can see an image of Raila Odinga blowing some.
Those are the comics, trumpet.
Really nice, they're blowing some trumpet. And William Ruto with a no handshake banner tied to his head with to his foot with a chain, and he's saying never while taking a saw and cuts off the piece of the foot attached with the banner.
So the picture speaks a lot.
It speaks a lot
in terms of.
In other words, William Ruto says never.
And that's what I was saying in terms of the mass action.
Yes.
Then are we going towards that road because we have maybe the solitary want of the common mwananchi at heart, or are we doing it because of our personal?
That's the most important thing to also focus, Marimo, is for how long then? Honestly, we really have to question ourselves, for how long then are we going to experience this push and pull between these two? And this,
in terms of maybe political affiliation,
in terms of the political affiliation,
and how the country,
and considering that
how the country is run,
and also measuring on the political affiliations and their impact on the governance. You know, they really impact a lot in the governance.
Yeah.
Remember, Honorable former Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko was impeached, but the process through which he was impeached was
somehow unscrupulous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I usually use this as an example, comparing the impeachment of there was an impeachment attempt of the now Kirinyaga governor, and she's now the second governor. I mean, she's in the second phase, and this Sonko. You remember, Waiguru, from the aspect of the citizens, they really wanted her out. But the political affiliations on the side of the government that she was leaning towards said no, it won't happen. On the other hand, Sonko, the citizens felt that this guy hasn't done anything different from what these other leaders are doing.
They're doing,
yeah. It's just like these other leaders, and he's not wrong. Much as maybe one or two things might have been cited against him, that he was not that much to be impeached, but the government was like, no, we don't want this one, in a way. So he had to get out. So what I'm saying is, these political affiliations happen to alter greatly the entire system of governance. Because if you in any way support the sitting government, regardless of whether you are dirty, regardless of whether it's known or unknown, you're going to be retained. And if you happen to be supporting the opposite side, regardless of how holy you may be, just like a monk, still you want to make it. So these political affiliations, they happen.
And I think you're very correct.
Yeah.
In terms of maybe how politics
affect the leadership.
The leadership.
Yeah. Maybe to talk about some a little bit of county news. This is Nairobi County, where traders want food produce, transport fees that is waived or reduced. Now, this, remember, living in an urban area is a bit tricky, and life there is really tough. So citizens in Nairobi are saying at least transport charges, food mostly, to be reduced. Also in Nairobi County, that is a competition from mailers leaves NCPB, that National Cereals and Produce Board, starved of maize supply. Starved for maize supply. Now that was a issue. Consider that Trans Nzoia is not really far, and they are good as far as maize production is concerned. So the question is the competition as millers leaves and CDP. Now, millers, these other millers are buying maybe with a good price, and the National Cereals and Produce Board, their price may be a little bit, And I would also have something to say about this. You remember, it happens that the cereals happen to trap the citizens, or rather the farmers, with these farm inputs. You see, you just go take the fertilizer, you go plant. By the time you bring your maize, a little chunk of money will be deducted to actually cover the inputs you took.
Yeah.
And this at times is not really fair, because who knows? What if it won't rain? I mean, what if the inputs, well, you took a lot of inputs, what if something happens? So there's a lot of risk and some kind of delicate balance as far as farmers is concerned.
Yeah. I think the president tries to advocate for the local farmer, whereby I think he says that then we should try and maybe empower local farmers, because they're the ones who go through all the processes of producing the goods. But we have middlemen.
Yes.
Cartels.
That's right.
Who maybe foreshadow what the farmers have done, and maybe try and come up with prices which will make the farmer not earn a lot from what is done. So I think as a government, then they should come up with a policy that will make the local farmer reap, so that he can be able to produce again in terms of maybe production is concerned.
Yeah, maybe just to really clarify what we was just talking about, is that maize millers are offering farmers higher price. Now these are other millers, not the National Season Protocol. Now I are offering higher price to produce with little available in the market. That's where the question is. And remember, the government told the citizens to sell their maize. They're going to import. Just sell.
They're talking about genetically modified.
Sure. Sell your products. Sell your maize. We're going to import now.
I think in Kenya, politicians just wake up one day and come with their own rules, rather than maybe having polls in terms of maybe what citizens are able to say, and also maybe view in terms of maybe their views and specifications, which I think is rather alarming.
Exactly. Maybe just to focus on the last article here, that's called Sakaj for Business. Sakaj is doing something great in Nairobi, county 5G network subscribers, which 300,000 on demand. Okay, Nairobi is doing good actually, and Sakaja is actually afraid. He's a real young man. You know, young men should be radical, and they should do things.
A man of wits.
Yeah,
he really tries to revolutionize the city,
and he's doing something.
And we really applause you for the
one of the most things that really touched me that Sakaja did the other day was to train the Kanjos. I don't know if that's the right word anyway. County council.
County council
askaris, So Sakaja was training them on business courses, business management, how to do PR, how to deal with the public. Because it happens that these people are just collected from the village and brought to the city, and now they are askaris, suddenly.
And I think that's
from a villager to an askari.
That's where the problem comes in.
Exactly.
The method that you're using to engage with the traders becomes rather uncouth.
That's it.
It's like the apartheid system that we had in South Africa, whereby they were using rungus in terms of administering.
Exactly.
Or are we going back to the Kipande system,
which is
whereby if you have to go from town A to B, then you have to have a badge that says your name, where you're working.
Oh my goodness.
I think that one is...
So Sakaja's idea of training them to at least know how to handle the public is one of the best moves, and I think the entire governors in this great republic should emulate that. At least train them. Or use the NYS if need be.
Sure.
Anyway, to that juncture, ladies and gentlemen, our good and esteemed viewers, we thank you for traveling together with us in this great journey. That has been the daily newspaper review brought to you live from Eldoret Town. I am your favorite presenter, Chief Gideon, together with my esteemed trainer and also my fellow sitting in for my fellow guest, or rather co-host, who happens to be the guest as well. His name is Ogola, but today we have Mr. Akedi sitting in for him. Maybe Akedi, bid goodbye to our viewers.
I think I will always say that I'm rather pleased to be here with you.
Thank you.
I think it is a warm welcome.
Exactly.
And to the viewers, sometimes when we're discussing political matters, I think we should also come in and try and text.
That's true. That's true.
On different platforms that you can always send your views. But to you, Gideon, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I always feel welcome. And anytime we're having these discussions, we'll always find some way to come and so that we can really delve on matters which are affecting the local Mwananchi.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're right here. We are your voice. To follow us, you can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and as well the TikTok, guys. And that is our Twitter handle, Facebook handle. No, that is just EVC Television. Visit us, EVC Television, or you are in YouTube. At least try to subscribe. Share the content. at least comment. We know your thoughts. What do you think about Baba's attire? For example, that very nice attire. What do you think about that?
Which I think was very. It is a military.
Of course,
we're going to war with Baba.
Yeah, we're going to war.
The Senate of Gwanda.
I tell you, Swahili
Gwanda,
calls it the Magwanda.
Gwanda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we know your views, and we move together. We travel together. If you have any other kind of proposals, you are welcome to contribute. Thank you so much for traveling with us. It's been really a pleasure having you. Until next time, bye bye for now.